While many people would count a European vacation amongst their bucket list items, for Steinbach's Dan and Luella Hewson, traveling to Eastern Europe has almost become old hat. This April will mark the 9th time the Hewsons have made the trip to Romania to continue their work with the U.S.-based group Heart to Heart International. Dan and Luella are the development coordinators for Heart to Heart Canada.
The main purpose that we founded Heart to Heart Canada for was to help bring Canadians together on our teams to go over to Romania and minister to orphan and abandoned children there. And we've been doing it since 2006, actually. And so this will be our 9th journey over this April.
It had always been a dream of mine to do this type of work overseas. And when our children were growing up, I also recognized that this would be a tremendous opportunity for them to see a culture other than our own and see the less fortunate people in our world.
When communism fell, there were literally tens of thousands of orphans released into the streets of Bucharest. Most of those kids were abandoned by their parents, abandoned to the state. Today, we're seeing a lot of the same type of mentality where the families there are very large families, and there is still a large thought that they can just give up their children to the state for care if they can't afford to keep them.
We don't work in all of the hospitals, obviously, but there are hundreds of babies per year that are abandoned in Bucharest alone. And there's probably about 150,000 abandoned children in Romania. Those are the ones in institutions. That is not counting the kids on the street, living in the sewer systems under the street. There are 3 branches to the Heart to Heart ministry. The first branch, the baby hospital ministry, we go into hospitals where the abandoned babies are simply left in their cribs, and we give them the physical stimulation that they need for normal development.
Often a mother will come in and have her child, and they have the option there by the state to leave it there in the care with the intention of maybe returning someday, going out and getting her life together and returning. Some do come back and claim their child a while down. Many don't. And so they wind up going through from the baby hospital, they go to the orphanage.
In the orphanage ministry, where we go into state-operated orphanages, we provide companionship for the kids. We play with them, we teach them everything from English to math. We're teaching them music. All of these are endeavors to give the kids the message that they do have worth. They have been abandoned on so many levels, not only by their parents, but also by the lack of the state to give them what they need in education. As a mom, it just really tore at your heart. And it's what's brought us back. The fact that we were able to provide something for those kids that would help them understand that they do have worth, that they do have importance in this world, and there are people who care for them. That is what really impacted us and really gave us the will to go back.
The third trip I was over there, I met a young fella by the name of Marian. He is, at that time he was 16 years old. He'd been at the orphanage for many, many years. And he has some learning disabilities, unable to learn to read and write. But he is a terrific young fella, a heart, big heart, and he and I kind of bonded. And he's a great soccer player. I hope someday that he can develop that. But it was the time together that I lost my mom when I was 10 years old, and I gave my testimony one day at the orphanage there, and he's a 16-year-old boy, came over and parked himself right there in my lap and just hung on. there was something there. And since then, every time I go back, he and I, we just pick up where we left off and bond. He is a very special young fella to me. I write to him, and like I said, it's as soon as we're back there, it's right where we left off last year.
We have the Transition House Ministry, and that's owned and operated by Heart to Heart. This is where we teach these young men and women who are 18 years of age, who are kicked out of the orphanage.
They're taught various skills.
Life skills and
trades. Our boys' transition house is located about 2.5 hours south of the city of Bucharest in a village called Nanchelest. We have a full-time administrator running that men's program. They're taught welding, building construction, auto mechanics. The girls are taught home economics skills, how to run a family. They were taught money management. So that's a 9-month program that they go through. And when they graduate from that, it doesn't stop there. We have a part-time pastor on staff that works with these young men and women. We help them integrate into society, find them a place to live, help them find a job. And it's counseling from there. We have young men and women that have been graduated from the program for over 5 years that are still involved, very much involved with Heart to Heart.
I don't think that in our culture we can understand a woman who abandons her child. I think we also need to understand that the children there cannot understand why a mother would abandon their child. For example, a young woman named Cornelia, we usually call her Corny, went through the orphanage system out there. She was abandoned. She had such difficulty in coming to terms with the fact that her mother had simply dropped her off. She was extremely bitter. She was extremely rebellious. She went through the Transition House program, and she had such anger that they actually had to expel her because of the influence she had on the rest of the girls. Now, she was reaccepted into the program and eventually made it through. Now she has such a heart and such an understanding for all the infants, for all the kids in the orphanage, that she is Heart to Heart staff member, and she is in charge of the baby hospital ministry. And you couldn't find a person with a more compassionate heart.
There are times when I've had a kid on my lap for a whole afternoon, and just hold them. And there are times when you get 10 kids and you go out and you play soccer all afternoon. You know, it just, there's such a contrast of differences there, but it feels great to be loved back by these people. We've experienced that in so many ways.
Two boys in the orphanage, a set of twins who were known as the Terror Twins.
Yep.
And they literally ran the orphanage. One day, Dan had to approach one of the boys about something he'd done that needed correction. And the boy told him, "Dan, when you leave, I'm going to cry." And I kind of rolled my eyes and thought, yeah, sure. Rough, tough Aline is going to cry when we leave. But he did. He had tears in his eyes. He was asking for letters. And in the years following that, he has always been extremely emotional when we left. This last time, he said goodbye to us, walked to a corner of the playground, and just wept. Absolutely wept.
It was a tough day. That was a tough moment.
Those are tough moments. We have a lot of tears when we leave each year. And that has changed me in the sense that I see the value of people differently. I see the value of the kids that country has thrown away as precious treasures. And it has given me the courage to do a lot of things that I would have never dreamed that I would have had the courage to do.
I've just discovered in the last 9 years, it's changed my life in such a way where I'm much more compassionate to people, I'm much more open to their needs, and much more willing to give of myself to their needs. And that's as a result of being loved by people that I never thought I would have anything to offer them. You can't not come away not being deeply affected by these people. You can't. It's, in my opinion, it's impossible.
For more information on Heart to Heart Canada, email h2hcanada@live.ca. For Steinbach Online, I'm Karen Black.